Great.
Happy Friday, everyone. I'm Denise O'Malley, the founder of You Define Wellness. And on every Friday morning, we introduce you to a provider from the You Define Wellness Network about their modality, their specialty. The intent is we are building a video dictionary on our website. So if you want to know what a modality is all about, you can go and you can hear from the experts. Today, we're going to be exploring erotic blueprints, and we have with us Celeste Grace, and I want to show you her contact information. We'll show it again at the end, but you'll want to screenshot this because you're going to want to reach out to her. And with that being said, I don't want to take any more of her time up. So Celeste, thank you for doing this today. I'm really excited to have you. I'm going to be learning about something I know nothing about, so you have a listener just dying to hear about this.
Wonderful.
So that being said, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Denise. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. All right. So I want to start with actually having you and whoever out there in Facebook land is watching. Imagine the last steamy, sexy movie that you watched. Just bring it to mind. And I'm guessing there was probably a scene in that movie that goes something like this. The two characters charge into the room together. Their hands and their mouths are furiously all over each other. They passionately tear each other's clothes off. Or maybe they don't even get that far. And then suddenly, intercourse. The next thing you know, they both orgasm at the same time. Wham, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Everyone's happy. Everyone's satisfied. Cue the post-coital cigarette smoking. The entire scene in the movie is over in about 90 seconds, right? So say this was a real life scene, there'd probably be, under 5 minutes. So I like to call this the FFO model, which is foreplay, fornicating, orgasm. So I don't know about you, Denise, or anyone else, especially in a female body out there, but I rarely have an orgasm in under 5 minutes. Maybe I want to have more than one. Maybe you want to have more than one. But what we're looking at is the dominant model for sex that we have in our culture. So this dominant paradigm for sexuality assumes a few things. One, everyone likes the exact same thing. Two, everyone's biology, physiology, anatomy, and nervous system all function at the same way and at the exact same speed. 3, penetration and male orgasm is the pinnacle of the sex act, and anything other than this sort of like inserting genitals is not actually considered sex. It's considered foreplay. So that's a very heterocentric model, and just assumes that whatever anyone else is doing is not actually sex. So this leaves out so much. It leaves out so much possibility for playfulness, for connection, for creativity, and even for spirituality. It leaves out the possibility to celebrate our differences and what makes us unique. And consequently, it also leaves so many of us feeling like we are broken, dirty, bad, or wrong in some way if we don't fit into that very narrow category of what sex is, what it should look like, and how you should be good at it, right? So sex columnist Dan Savage, I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Denise. Yeah. He says about sexuality, what we call sexual deviancy is actually the norm, meaning very few people actually fit into like that normal model that we have. So we're not bad, we're not wrong, we're not broken, but maybe our cultural conversation around sex and erotic expression is the thing that is bad and wrong and broken. It could be updated. And I think we are slowly getting there. But this leads me to how we can change that conversation even more and understand, and even our understanding around eroticism and sexuality and pleasure. And so that's where the framework for the erotic blueprints come in. So we're getting to the juicy bits. So okay. Bringing in the erotic blueprints. So the erotic blueprints are similar to the 5 love languages. If you are familiar with the 5 love languages, Denise, or anyone else out there, that's a really popular model for how we relate with loved ones. and really with anyone. But it's a really popular model in terms of just like relationship therapy and coaching about how you give and receive love. So the erotic blueprints are similar to the 5 love languages. It's more like a whole life roadmap to your unique erotic expression. So if anyone out there has heard of the erotic blueprints, and if you know what yours is, I would love it if you would type in the Facebook comments, what's your erotic blueprint type? So I'm just going to give you a simple framework for the erotic blueprints, okay? And then we'll just go over like how and why this is helpful. If you can't already imagine, like just having this whole framework that's different from this one little narrow way that we normally do sexuality, like there's like a whole spectrum and whole range of ways that I could express myself sexually. So 5 erotic blueprint types. Essentially, each type, there's 5 types. Each type has what I would call a superpower, what you're very naturally just good at, comes easy to you, you're very good at it. And a shadow, which is something that might hinder you from your full range of erotic expression, or your full range of expressing your sexuality in a healthy and fun and playful way. So each person, everybody has, you know, like any kind of framework, you'll have a percentage of ways that that your blueprint falls in, you know, 85% this, 15% this, for example. But each person has a dominant type. It's just the thing that you naturally do well. So let's just briefly go through the 5 different types. And I'm also going to go through just a very brief explanation of like what the superpower is for that particular blueprint type and what the shadow is for that particular blueprint type. So first one we're going to talk about is the energetic type, which is my predominant blueprint type. So an energetic blueprint type approaches sexuality and erotic expression through, they love, we love anticipation and a lot of space and a lot of tease. We love emotional connection. So we love it when we tend to work a little more slowly. We love it when our partner approaches us more slowly. So the shadow part is that the hindrance there is, we can be highly sensitive to energy, which can be amazing and lead to some really fun, sort of like sacred sexuality type experiences, but can also lead us to shut down and short circuit if somebody does approach us too quickly. So next we have the sensual type. So, and if you're listening, you can share in the comments if this feels like, if I say something that feels like it really resonates with you, like, ooh, I'd love to hear in the comments. And Denise, of course, you can
I'll monitor it.
Pop in as well. Great. So the sensual blueprint type is really somebody who sort of dominates in the realm of the 5 senses. So this is a person who is probably really amazing at creating ambiance in their life. They have the lighting always just right. The food, they could be like real foodies. They're really into textures, really into sound, creating amazing lighting, creating amazing experiences. And because they can be so in their bodies or embodied like that, they have this amazing capacity for pleasure. Converse there, the shadow there is that they can often be in their heads, which can prevent them from being in that really embodied experience. So moving along, we're moving into the sexual type. So sexual type is, I described that at the beginning of this chat, basically is that sort of like the dominant model in our culture, the sort of 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. You know, they love just nakedness and the sex act. They love orgasms. And really that type of person can be a lot of fun. And the downside there, and the downside really is this wider conversation, that it's pretty single focused and can really miss the journey. You can miss the journey that leading up to the sort of like end goal. You can miss your lover's needs. And so next we have kinky. So kinky is, I think can be misunderstood in our culture, but at its core, it really is about what is taboo for you. And that can vary so widely from person to person, depending on your comfort level with your own sexuality and what you've been exposed to. And so in the kinky realm, there's two categories. There's sensation-based kink, where you're talking about impact, ropes, floggers, much more sort of like hands-on. And then there's psychological kink. So like playing with a lot of like tease and sort of like creating a lot of like tension and build up with your lover before you even really get to them, and creating a lot of just like anticipation.
It sounds like the game's playing.
Right. Yes, lots of games for sure. So for example, like if I were to play with psychological kink, or just kink in general, sensation based, say, I just end up flogging somebody for 3 minutes. That's very sensation based, very direct. Or if I wanted to play with that same thing psychologically, I could say, okay, I want you to put your arms by your sides and I want you to sit still for 3 minutes without flinching. If you do that, you'll get a reward. But if I see you flinch, you will get punished. So some, like for some people, that's just like, oh, I don't even need anything else. That's just like, oh, so good. So the downside, the shadow side of kink is that there can be a lot of, I guess I didn't even say what the strengths are. The strengths are like extreme creativity and usually a lot of really great communication skills in its healthy expression. Downside, shadow side is just a lot of deep shame and denial around what actually does turn you on. So next we have the shapeshifter. The fifth type is the shapeshifter type. And so the shapeshifter type is somebody in its healthy expression really wants all of those things and is really fluent in all of the types. They're very, very creative, really just a wide capacity for pleasure. The downside, the shadow side, is that they oftentimes can lose themselves if they are just catering to one lover, or catering to a lover who is kind of more just wants one thing, and they want to please their lover, and they know how to, and they know how to do it really well, and then they end up actually kind of starving in their own with their own needs because they're catering so much to somebody else.
I love these 5 types. I am somewhere, I think with most people, I think most people have actually probably, as they're exploring their own sexuality, move into each one of these realms to find where their comfort level is. So is that normal?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And it even speaks to another sort of deeper layer that we work with when we work with the blueprints, is this whole idea, and it's true in life. And I think that as humans, sometimes we want to get a little like, for an attempt to control things and like say, I'm this thing and I'm only this thing, or I only want these things to happen. But the truth is that everything in life is constantly changing and shifting, and it's dynamic, as is our sexuality. And not only can we change and fluctuate through blueprint types depending on where we're at in life and how much we're healing or growing or changing, but there's different stages of sexuality that can be dynamic and changing as well. Are you healing from a surgery? Are you healing from childbirth? Maybe your sexuality is a little bit shut down right now. Are you coming out of a relationship that you felt like sexually starved in, and now you're in a place where you're like, I'm in adventure mode. I just want to have new experiences I've never had before. I'm going to try all these different things. And that actually, this idea that your sexuality is dynamic and changing, I think actually gives people kind of a relief around, like, say you have like low libido for a year. That doesn't mean, or whatever, maybe even longer. Sometimes we tend to categorize ourselves as, I'm just a person who has low libido. And maybe that's not true. Maybe you're in a very long cycle of a resting or a healing stage in your sexuality. And so it's possible to actually come out of that. It's not just, this is just who I am and there's nothing that can be done, or I'm broken, or I'm wrong. And I I'm not trying to diminish somebody for whom maybe that is actually true, but just opening up possibilities for other truths that bring in your wholeness and more pleasure into your life, and just really more of a sense of aliveness. So that was the long answer to your question.
It's perfect, actually. Thank you.
Great. So yeah, so I liken the erotic blueprints to a language, you know, and when you begin to learn a language, you begin to have a deeper understanding of a culture. For example, say I speak
Right.
French. So I have a deeper understanding of French culture because I can communicate with people in that country. So this is really like one of the beauties of the erotic blueprints. You begin to understand yourself on a deeper level and normalize who you are. And you can also do that with whoever you're in relationship with. So it's just so brilliant. It's so brilliant. And I can tell a story about how it's kind of related to me. How are we doing on time? I told you beforehand that I could go on and on.
Yeah, we started a little late, so we have a little bit more time, but I do have a bunch of questions. Why don't we jump there? Is that
Great, let's go to questions. Absolutely. And I've got obviously way more I can say.
right? So erotic blueprints, is this better to go through it individually, or is it better to go through a program to learn this together?
That is such a great question. And actually, I was going to speak to that. So thank you for that question. So both things are brilliant. And I have had both types of clients. And the reason is, obviously, if you're in a relationship, there's a highly relational aspect to this. And a lot of times, the way that working with the erotic blueprints can help clients who are already in relationship is sometimes there is a story around we're not sexually compatible.
Mm-hmm.
When I think oftentimes, I would say the majority of the time, what's actually true is you're not speaking the same language. And you know how in conflict you keep just trying to get your point across again and again and again
Right.
and again,
Right.
you know, hope to be understood. And same with your partner. So
Yeah.
this can actually create like a different kind of conversation that you have. So you're understanding yourselves and each other on a deeper level, and you're able to approach these sort of maybe long-standing ruts or patterns or problems in a different way. So it can be really amazing for couples.
I think that's an area that we need to talk more about in some ways. I will tell you, there have been people in my life where they were so not in compatibility with each other that, let's say, and I'm going to use an example. I have somebody specifically in mind for this that I'm going to talk about. The husband would always tell the wife, "You're just frigid," because she wasn't ready to. He had his lane, and this is what it was, and he was not necessarily listening to what she was wanting. She was not. It wasn't that she was frigid. There was just no, satisfaction. Okay, it was the movie, jump in bed, have sex, have the cigarette at the end, you're done.
Yeah.
So it sounds like erotic blueprints would be a great step, particularly for somebody who's thinking about going through relationship counseling, because it's in this particular situation, the husband and wife that I'm talking about, she felt something was wrong with her. And he was telling her something was wrong with her because there was nothing wrong with him. He was fine. He could get it up, right?
Right.
But there was something wrong with her. So instead of going maybe as a step before relationship counseling or even during relationship counseling, erotic blueprints is something that they should explore.
Absolutely. I'm just imagining that what you're describing is a couple who one of them is a sexual blueprint type and one of them is an energetic blueprint type. And based on that sort of like sexuals, let's go right now, energetic, I need a lot of space and turn on and anticipation and tease like that. That is a very common pairing because it's got, this polarity where we have these things where we attract the opposite polarity. That's a very common pairing. And so that is something that's brilliant to work with. And not only that, but there's so much around like just creating empathy and communication. My guess would be there's going to be a lot of benefit in the relationship outside the bedroom by doing this work.
Right. You just frozen.
Which actually leads me to how this work is good for single people as well. Yeah, sorry, you froze for just a moment. I did want to touch onto how this work is an incredibly empowering experience for single people and or just one person who's in a relationship. You don't have to have your partner joining you if you don't want to. And the reason for that is because erotic energy and sexual expression runs throughout every aspect of our lives. And sort of like culturally, we've kind of shut it off into this little bucket of like behind closed doors in the bedroom. But erotic energy really is our life force. It's a very deep part of our expression and who we are. And so imagine if, as a single person, you learn how to tune into this on your own and how empowering that is, and the kind of skills you can bring into your next relationship. And so it's amazing for wherever you are in your sort of relational journey, single, coupled, whatever.
So we talk a lot about collaboration. That's one of the reasons why we even started this What Is series, collaboration amongst healers. How would another healer, what signs would they be looking for in their clients where they might be thinking, you know what, I think you need this expertise over here, go meet with Celeste. So what signs should they be looking for?
Gosh, well, that's a tricky question, I guess, because maybe if somebody is constantly talking about how they're having a hard time in their relationship or dating life, or they just can't seem to find the one, or something like that, that might be a sign. I think that it's a tender topic for a lot of people, and a lot of people aren't going to just, if you're talking with somebody, a professional who's not in the realm of sexuality, you might never get any information from a potential client. And so I would say if somebody just feels like they want something, like maybe you're seeing an energy healer or somebody like that, or maybe even a life coach where you want somebody or something, you want more in your life. Like you feel like you're a little bit shut down, you feel like something's missing. You feel like there's just more out there. You feel like there's something about you where you're not really yourself. You're not really alive. I think those are all good signs that, or maybe an indication that that person's not in touch with their unique expression of who they are as an erotic being. And so I think that would maybe be good indicators for other practitioners out there.
And for the individual, I mean, we can learn about erotic blueprints on our own. Google, I mean, we got the Google machine, right?
Always get on my calendar.
But for the individual who is feeling perhaps embarrassed or nervous or anxious on working with you as a coach on the erotic blueprints, what would you say to them?
I would say all of you is welcome here. All of you is welcome. The shameful parts, the embarrassed parts, you're yearning for something more, and you've been embarrassed and you've been ashamed, and I'm going to hold space for all of that, and we're going to look at all of those really tender parts with a lot of love. And it's also going to be really fun. So I think, and this is maybe even the most important part. I know that when I considered approaching, sexuality as a profession, coaching profession, I was a little intimidated because sometimes sexuality can be, dark, intense, it can feel like a lot. A lot of people have, consent violations in their past, and they feel very unsafe. So I hold a really safe, consensual container consent is huge, 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 huge for me. And so I help people learn how to navigate the consent piece and their own boundaries. But the other part is I make it really light and fun. Like there's the aspect of sexuality that is really, really light and really fun and really playful and joyful. And that's the part that feels like I just really work well in. And I usually attract other clients that are looking for that aspect of it as well. You know, there are some people who really just resonate towards that like darker piece, and that's great. But I work more in this sort of like the light, joyful, fun aspect of sexuality. So it's a little less intimidating, I think.
Yeah, and you work with clients over Zoom or something like this.
Exactly.
So,
It works really well
yeah.
for everybody.
To eliminate the fears, when they're working with
Yeah.
you, it's talk, 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 talk. Turn off the Zoom, go have fun. Is that correct?
Right, exactly. Oh, yes, yes,
Okay.
for sure. So, and I will say there's a somatic piece in my coaching too, which is more like me coaching you for how to be in your body and track sensations in your body, get into that felt sense, because a lot of times what happens is we're all up here and we're not in here. We're not in our bodies, but that's where a lot of the desire and turn on and fun stuff is actually happening. So there's a component of me coaching you to be in your body, but there is never going to be anything that's not, you're going to have your clothes on the whole time. And we're going to talk about like ways that you can work with this on your own, and then you're going to go work on it on your own. And then you're going to come back and we'll have a conversation. What worked, what didn't work, what are we celebrating, what was awesome, and what can we tweak for next time? It's like a science experiment, it's a lab. So there's no way to get any of it wrong. We approach it as a fun, playful science experiment.
With that being said, we're going to move into final thoughts for you, because I think we could be talking about this all day long.
Yes.
But before we move into final thoughts, I want to, if you've made it this far into this video, thank you for joining us. But I want to make a point, and that is, we've had a few people who have said, they've raised their eyebrows and they're like, you're talking about erotic blueprints and you define wellness. This is an employee benefit plan. What's the deal? Here at You Define Wellness, we are not going to just shove things behind a door. This is a huge part of the human component about being a happy, healthy, and thriving person. And so there is no treading softly on this subject. We're going to be bringing it out because human sexuality is a really important part of who we are and what we're doing. And I wanted to make sure that we had that in this video to clarify that. So if it makes you uncomfortable, keep moving on. It's okay. But if you're looking for solutions, my gosh, we have them. So with that being said, Celeste, go ahead and final thoughts that you want to make sure that we get into this that we did not cover earlier.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know if I feel like we did a pretty good job. And I just want to say thank you so much for bringing that into the conversation, Denise. And that's why I do this work, because the reason that sexuality has the taboo that it has is because we don't talk about it, and it has been pushed into a corner. And whenever you do that, that's when things turn malignant and turn shadowy, and where things, like sexual aggression and assault and all of these like shadowy things happen. And so when we shine a light on it, we can heal that shadow, which is what I want to do for people. So I'm so happy you brought that into the conversation. That's so great. And I guess that's it. I just really, just hope to help people create more magic and wholeness and joy, and just feel more alive by cultivating more pleasure in their life in whatever way works best for you, whether it's with the Erotic Blueprints and the work that I do, or with somebody else.
Oh, awesome. I am sharing your contact information, and I urge anyone to go ahead and reach out. And if you would like to have a consultation with her, learn more about the work that she's doing, reach out to her. You can also access her store on our website at youdefinewellness.com. Go to the Wellness Center and search for her name, and you will find her store. Before we leave, I want to make sure I let you know that we have many other events. We bring in Somebody said to me just recently, my gosh, Denise, you get to hang with the best people. I do. I really do. These are health and wellness professionals who are passionate about helping you. And we have put together a number of events. Every week we have at least 3 things going on where you can learn about health and wellness modalities, something other than what you've done before. You can meet some of the practitioners. You can receive some great information. I invite you to check out our events. You can go to our website, our Facebook page, or our LinkedIn profile. Although I will tell you, you will find most of them on our website and our Facebook page. But we invite you to come to any of our other events. And with that being said, I just have to say thank you for doing this presentation today. This
Thank you
was
so much.
I have been looking forward to this and getting your message out there and letting people get to know who you are and what it's all about. And we just scratched the surface.
Yeah, totally.
So much more to this conversation that we could be diving into. But thank you for doing it. I know we have a couple hour time difference, and so it's not as early for you doing it. So you're lucky
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, well, thank you. It was so fun. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. And for those participating with us live or who have watched this video after we've posted it on YouTube and in our Facebook library, thank you very much for joining us today. Check out some of our other events. We look forward to seeing you at a future event.